It started off like any other Saturday morning. The sun was out, birds were chirping, and I figured it was the perfect time to mow my front lawn. Nothing fancy, just me, my mower, and a bit of fresh air. I threw on some headphones, fired up the mower, and started going over the usual patches. No big deal, right? That's what I thought too. Until a police cruiser rolled up and parked right in front of my driveway. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe she was just turning around or needed directions. But nope. She stepped out, shades on, power walking toward me like she was about to break up a hostage situation. This lady, let's call her Cop Karen, didn't ask questions, didn't introduce herself, just marched straight into my yard, yelling over the mower. I shut it off, confused, thinking maybe there was some sort of mistake. But instead of talking like a normal person, she started demanding I show ID and told me I was violating a city code. I asked her what code, politely, but that only made her angrier. Before I could even reach for my phone to call someone or record, she slapped handcuffs on me. Right there. On my own lawn. Now, here's the wild part. She wasn't even supposed to be on my property. No warrant, no real reason. Just her feeling like something was off. I kept trying to explain, telling her I lived here. I was just mowing my own grass, but she wasn't listening. Neighbors started watching. A few even pulled out their phones. I couldn't believe what was happening. One minute, I'm doing basic yard work, and the next, I'm cuffed like I just robbed a bank. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, she went inside my gate. That's when things really started to go sideways. So there I was, standing in my own yard, cuffed, heart pounding, trying to figure out how mowing my lawn turned into a full-blown situation. Cop Karen didn't slow down. She pushed open my side gate like she owned the place and started snooping around the backyard. I kept asking, "What are you looking for? You even have a reason to be here?" But she completely ignored me, acting like I didn't exist. I could feel the eyes of my neighbors burning into the scene, their phones recording every move, probably just as confused as I was. Now, for a little context, this wasn't the first strange thing that's happened around here. A few weeks back, I had a run-in with someone from the HOA who kept making petty complaints, stuff like my grass being an inch too high or my trash bin being visible from the street. I brushed it off, thought it was just one of those grumpy neighborhood things. But now, with a cop in my backyard and cuffs on my wrists, it felt like something way bigger was going on. This didn't feel like random enforcement. It felt personal. What really threw me off was how calm and sure of herself she was. Like this wasn't her first time pulling something like this. She kept mumbling about possible violations and uncooperative behavior, but she hadn't even asked my name yet. It was like she was trying to build a case out of thin air. I started wondering, was she really here on official duty? Or was this some sort of twisted power trip? I looked toward one of my neighbors, silently asking for help, and that's when he mouthed something that sent a chill down my spine. "She's not supposed to be here." That was the moment I realized something wasn't right at all. And it was about to get even stranger. I stood there, still cuffed, trying to process what my neighbor just said. "She's not supposed to be here." That echoed in my head over and over. If she wasn't on duty or didn't have a legal reason to be on my property, then what was this? I tried asking again, "Ma'am, do you have a warrant? Am I being charged with something?" But she snapped back, saying I was interfering with an investigation. What investigation? I was cutting grass. Meanwhile, she started looking behind my shed like she was hunting for something. That's when I noticed her glancing over toward Mrs. Patterson's house, the same neighbor who'd been sending in those constant HOA complaints. And then it clicked. Maybe this wasn't random. Maybe there was some behind-the-scenes drama I didn't know about yet. I started thinking back how Mrs. Patterson once mentioned her niece worked in law enforcement. Could this be her? A few more neighbors were outside now, whispering, pointing, recording. One of them, Jordan, lives across the street and used to work private security. He walked closer and called out, "Is this a legal search? Because I don't see any warrant." Cop Karen ignored him, but her face twitched just slightly. It was the first crack in her calm. Something was definitely off. Inside, I could see my dog barking through the back window, tail going crazy. He probably didn't understand why I wasn't coming inside. That hit me hard. I was being treated like a criminal right in front of my own home for doing something as normal as mowing my lawn. And yet, the person cuffing me might not even have any legal standing. Then Jordan said, something I'll never forget. I ran her badge number, nothing comes up. That's when my stomach dropped. Who was this woman really? Why was she targeting me? And if she wasn't even officially on duty, what exactly was her reason for showing up in the first place? The moment Jordan said her badge didn't show up in the system, the entire mood shifted. A few of the neighbors stopped recording and started calling out questions, asking who she really was, what department she worked for, and why I was in handcuffs. But she didn't answer. She kept pacing in my backyard like she was searching for something specific, something she was sure was hidden there. My hands were starting to go numb in the cuffs, but my mind was racing even faster. I thought about Mrs. Patterson again. She'd always had this weird obsession with neighborhood standards and had threatened me more than once for not trimming my bushes exactly to HOA guidelines. Could she have actually sent someone in disguise to intimidate me, or worse, was she trying to plant something to get me in trouble? It sounded crazy even in my own head, but standing there watching this woman rifle through my backyard without any authority, wasn't that far-fetched anymore. Jordan got on the phone and started calling someone. He said it was a contact of his in the sheriff's department. He kept his voice calm, but I could tell he was serious. "We might have an impersonator over here," he said. That word impersonator made everything feel 10 times more real. Was I not just dealing with someone out of line, but with someone pretending to be a cop? Cop Karen suddenly turned and noticed Jordan talking on the phone. Her whole demeanor changed. She stormed toward him, yelling that he was obstructing a police investigation. But this time, her voice cracked a little. The confidence was slipping. She stopped a few feet short of him, eyes darting around like she was sizing up how many people were now watching. More phones were out now. People were calling actual police. Someone even said dispatch confirmed no unit was assigned to our street. And that's when she reached for something on her belt. But it wasn't a radio. Everything froze for a second. The air got heavy. I could hear my heart beating over the silence. Something big was about to go down, and we all felt it. Everyone held their breath as Cop Karen reached down to her belt. For a second, we all thought it might be a weapon, but what she pulled out wasn't a gun. It was a small black device, like a walkie, but not one I'd ever seen before. She pressed a button, muttered something too low to hear, then quickly turned her back and started speed-walking toward her cruiser. The sudden change in her energy sent a wave of confusion through the crowd. What was she doing now? Was she calling someone? Back up? Or was she about to bolt? Jordan was still on the phone, now pacing, nodding. Then he looked straight at me and said, "Sheriff's deputy is on the way. I take 4 minutes. They confirm she's not in their system at all." And that's when it happened. Just as she reached her car door, another neighbor, Lacey, yelled out something that made everyone turn. That's not even a real cop car. Everyone's eyes snapped to the vehicle. It looked legit at first glance, but now that we were paying attention, little things started standing out. The logo on the side was slightly off. The lights looked different. And the license plate? It's covered with a fake plastic plate cover, barely Hanging on, people started backing away. Whatever this was, it was way beyond a simple power trip. I was still cuffed, still helpless, but I could feel the entire situation spiraling into something way darker than a mistaken identity. Then, just as she was about to open the door, a ringtone echoed from her back pocket. She froze, didn't answer. The ringtone kept going, and finally Jordan shouted, "Put it on speaker." But she didn't. Instead, she turned to me, still cuffed. Still confused, Dan said something that chilled me to the bone. "You shouldn't have ignored the HOA warnings." That's when I realized, this wasn't just about mowing my lawn. This was something planned, something personal, and it wasn't over, not even close. As the deputy flipped through the folder, everyone around me went quiet. The pages were full of notes that made it clear this wasn't some impulsive stunt. This had been in the works for weeks, maybe months. One note read, "Mow early, loud. Uses mower every Saturday." Another had a printed screenshot of a complaint form sent to the HOA, signed with Mrs. Patterson's full name. It was chilling, like someone had been watching my every move and planning to make an example out of me for something as harmless as lawn maintenance. They put Garen, whose real name turned out to be Diane Walker, into the back of the real cruiser. One deputy walked over to Mrs. Patterson's yard. She didn't even flinch. Arms crossed, standing tall like she thought she'd done the right thing. But the second they mentioned the emails, her smile faltered. The deputy told her they'd need to speak with her at the station. She protested, tried to talk circles, saying it was just a misunderstanding and that she was concerned for the safety of the neighborhood. But the truth was already out, and the evidence was solid. The other deputy handed me a card and promised to file a report. The neighbors clapped quietly, not for me, but probably for justice finally showing up. I walked back to my front lawn, still half mowed, still trying to believe it had all actually happened. The cuffs had left marks on my wrists, but it was the invasion of trust that stung more. And just when I thought it was over, Jordan came up to me, holding something wrapped in paper he found near the back fence. It was a small motion sensor, camera buried, aimed straight at my back door. Someone had planted surveillance on my property. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just an HOA feud. This was something deeper. Someone had crossed a line they couldn't uncross. And though Diane was gone and Mrs. Patterson was under investigation, I had no idea who else had been watching. Or why over the next few days, things slowly started to return to normal lore, as close to normal as you can get after something like that. The sheriff's department followed up with a full investigation. Diane, the fake cop, was charged with impersonating a law enforcement officer, trespassing, and unlawful restraint. Mrs. Patterson was brought in for questioning, and her emails proved she'd been working behind the scenes, pushing Diane to take action because she believed I was lowering property values with my weekend mowing routine. It was petty and personal, and now it was public. The HOA had no choice but to step in. After pressure from neighbors and a petition that got passed around the block, Mrs. Patterson was removed from her committee position. Turns out, I wasn't the only one she had been targeting, just the one who finally stood up. The fake patrol car was seized, and the equipment she used, including that hidden surveillance camera, was collected as evidence. Authorities told me it would all go into a formal case. I even had to give a statement to local news. Since someone's video of the incident had gone viral online under the title "Fake Cop Karen Arrested After Cuffing Homeowner Over Lawn Care." Looking back, all I'd done was mow my lawn on a Saturday morning. But that small act sparked a chain of events that uncovered lies, obsession, and a real abuse of power. It made me realize how quickly something innocent can be twisted when the wrong people are given influence. The real lesson? Always stand your ground, even if it's over something as simple as grass. Because when someone crosses a line on your property, your voice matters. And sometimes, speaking up is the one thing that stops people from going too far.